Hello, Dr. Ray. I'm sure I'm going to get really good advice from you.
Why do I have to be the insightful professional?
Thank you for empowering me.
Here's what I think is going on.
I think you're a hoot and a half.
My idea, my theory, my guidance is a bit of a stretch.
I just love your show.
Does that comfort you?
No.
Am I close?
No. You are really smart.
I am sensitive and understanding and nurturing.
Your show to me is like a comedy information show.
Did I make you feel a lot better or what?
No, you made me feel worse.
Now, from the studios of Living Bread Radio Network in Canton, Ohio, the hometown of Mother Angelica, here's Dr. Ray.
Thank you for the intro, Steve Clark. Appreciate it. Andrew Kruchek, producer man, is there in Ann Arbor. Ave Maria Radio Communications coordinates with EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network to produce this program, heard on some 500 stations around the world, 400 plus domestically. I've been working on some of the languages that I need to master to be able to talk so that folks can understand. Right now, I think I've pretty much got Australian down pat, but only a couple of words and phrases. Hello, I'm going for a walkabout. Matt Fradd would be proud of me on that. This is Look Back Friday. It's an idea we came up with some years ago. Andrew Kruchek informs me that we've been doing this for 11 years. I would have guessed 5. As my cousin once said, anytime somebody asks you, when was that in the past? If it was a while back, the year you think it was, how many years ago, double it. When I first said to Andrew, we've been doing this 5 years, huh? 5 or 6 years. He says 11. The way the program is set up is I take previous calls, I assign them to Andrew Kruchek. He edits them, and in the beginning he gets rid of my playful badinage, which I think is endearing, but he apparently just wants to get straight to the nugget of the call. And there are usually places we could go in the call. Notice how I say we. That's a bad habit I have, because really it's we. You're not taking the call. You're listening. Places I could go in the call, but the caller doesn't go there. The caller has a particular question or situation, comment that they want to address. Sometimes I will go off on a different direction if I think that relates better to what they're asking, but oftentimes within the call there's points that can be made and I don't make them. This is not therapy, obviously, but some of the more obvious ones I don't make. Put the call aside for something to take up in a future Look Back Friday. So that's what this is. Not uncommonly in marriage counseling, if a spouse says, for example, I just wish my spouse would be more affectionate. The response to that, if there is one, is, well, that's just not me. And I've noticed that defense is a common one in a lot of places. Well, I know my aunt, my great aunt is in a nursing home, and yeah, she probably would appreciate me visiting her, but that's just not me. Or I'd like to do that, like to help the church out with that, but that's just not me. That's code. That's code language for I don't want to. It really is. You may not have a predilection for doing that. You would prefer not to. But there is nothing or no one that is forcing you to not do that. If you know your spouse wants you to be a little more affectionate, and you say, that's just not me, what are you saying? You're saying, what I want is much more important than what you want. I don't want to do that. So you want me to do that. I don't want to do it. Doesn't come easy. Doesn't come natural. So don't ask me. I think someone who is trying to live a good Christian life has a lot less "that's just not me" excuses. Because if it is something that is charitable and good in a relationship or in supporting someone or helping someone, and you don't feel like doing it, I mean, that's kind of what it comes down to. I don't feel like it. As a Christian, we are obliged to do what is good and right, not what we feel like, or what is just not me. That's a kind of a base sort of excuse. It sounds like it's legit. It sounds like, well, that's... You're asking me to be someone that I'm not. Well, maybe you should be someone you're not. Maybe you should go visit Aunt Mary in the nursing home. Maybe you should tell your kids, "I love you" a little more often. Maybe you should keep your mouth shut when somebody says something that's provocative. Well, that's just not me. I'm assertive. I stand up for my rights. I'm not about to be a doormat. I'm not about to be a shrinking violet. Or I'm not about to be a shrinking doormat. Yeah, but maybe it would be, in those contexts, better to not be you. Besides, you can make you be different in a lot of situations. If my spouse wants me to be affectionate, and I'm not naturally that way, or I'm not naturally expressive with my love, but I know my spouse wants that, then what excuse do I have? That's just not me as a cheap one. It's real cheap. It sounds like it's legit, but it's not. It's basically saying, I don't want to and I don't feel like it. And you can't make me. And you're not the boss of me. Like a 3-year-old. Watch that one. Next time you're tempted to say it, maybe you don't ever say it. Or you hear it from other people. But the next time you are tempted to say it, stop yourself. And ask yourself, what am I really saying here? Alrighty, when we come back, we are going to talk to Monica. Monica from Nebraska. Hard to be depressed when you're playing a banjo. I don't know if that's a banjo, though. Sounds like it could be a guitar. Hard to be depressed when you're playing a harmonica, too. I'm Dr. Ray. Thanks for joining me here, and the Doctor is in. This is Look Back Friday, and let's go to Monica talking about her 88-year-old mom.
Some advice regarding my mother. She's 88 years old. I have 4 brothers, 1 sister, and my mom has rejected one of my brothers. He was married for 20-plus years to my sister-in-law and then came out as gay. My parents at the time said they'd never be accepting of a partner. So this brother was in some relationships, and my parents tolerated that. But after my dad passed, when my brother told my mom that he was getting married, then she is totally just rejected him, won't allow or won't be at any gatherings that he's at, calls him wayward, all kinds of things, you know. And so it's just been difficult for our family. We have always valued family gatherings. It started with my grandparents and fun times with cousins and, you know, just appreciated those times, family times. And so my parents continued that. And then to suddenly not be able to have those gatherings without all this tension. And I feel like, you know, Mom kind of started that, what kind of advice would you have for the children of a woman who is rejecting one of her kids?
Do the kids think like she does?
No, we are all in line with feeling that we're not going to exclude anyone. We may not agree with everything, but that's just being a family. We all want to be together during those fun holiday times.
Do you think that your dad was the one that was sort of keeping your mom in contact with your brother, and then once his influence was gone, Mom said, now I have nothing stopping me from acting upon the way I want to act?
Yeah, I do think with Dad being gone, he kind of kept her in check, so to speak. And she's just very, you can't have a good conversation with her. She knows everything.
So her attitude is, if he's there, I'm not. Is it that point?
Yes.
And your brother knows that?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And his view is, okay, well, if that's how Mom feels, I won't bring my partner. He's not saying that, is he? No,
he's saying my partner needs to be included.
And so the heck with Mom. She's irrational, she's unreasonable, she's not a Christian, she's ugly, whatever words he's using, that's what he's saying.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you think you have more influence over, your brother or your mother?
Neither. I think they're a lot alike, and they're both extremely stubborn. I can probably talk to my brother better than my mom. She shuts me down whenever I try and bring things up.
Do you think there's any chance that if you approached your brother with the reasoning of, Mom is 88 years old, she sees this her way, I don't know. Can you just acquiesce to her, even though you disagree with her, even though you think she's not right? Can you just acquiesce for the rest of us? And if your partner is as reasonable as you say he is, that he would understand as opposed to this, well, look, I don't care if it causes all kinds of family disruption. I don't care if your mother's miserable. I don't care if she's not included the last 2 years of her life. So what? I mean, is that his attitude and his partner's attitude?
I think his partner would probably be more open. I think his viewpoint is, I've hidden this all my life. This is who I am, and well,
it's not who he is. It's one part of him that's a sexual attraction. But we'll let that aside for now.
Yeah. And,
I'm not going to say, well, who I am is my PhD. No, that's just one part of me.
Right.
Well, who I am is I am an athlete. Well, that's one part of me. Yeah, I know. But never mind. Mm-hmm. That's a side issue. So it seems to me that one or the other has to yield if you're going to have some kind of family get-together piece. If you can convince your brother, or I'd sit down with both of them, your brother and the guy he's with, and say, here's the deal. I'm not arguing Mom's perspective here and what she's decided to do about it. She's 88 years old. Let's let her have her final years at family get-together so she can look at her family, and she would not come if just your brother came, right? It's if he comes with the guy he's with is when she won't go.
That's
okay. So maybe your brother would say, I can do that in some level of respect toward Mom. Now, if he digs his heels in and says, no, she needs to accept exactly my terms the way they are. Well, gee, what do you do with something like that? So
yeah.
I would hope he does. Now, let's say he doesn't. And let's say the guy he's with can't influence him. And let's say that your mom says, well, he there, I ain't.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you could say to the brother, let's alternate. You come to one gathering, the next one Mom comes. And if he's not even willing to do that, then he is kind of digging his heels in about all this. We don't know what Mom is thinking. Likely, she's questioning herself as a mother. Perhaps she feels as a failure in some way that her son has chosen this lifestyle after 25 years of marriage. Likely she's extremely angry at him, which is, you dumped your wife, and if there are kids, your kids, for this lifestyle, and I'm supposed to accept this? She is elderly, and her thinking on this is pretty solidified. The call brings up an interesting point. And this comes down to a very pervasive, and I think in some respects very ugly, part of the human condition. You need to respect, you need to accept, you need to celebrate the choices I make. And if you don't, then I am unwilling in any way to do anything that would make it easier for anybody else. It's really what this is about. Her son can't say, I don't know how much longer Mom's got to live, but she sure wants to be with her family. Well, yeah, she wants to be with her family, but not me. Again, it comes back to, I'm not being respected. And it isn't a matter of she doesn't want him there. She's just saying the relationship that you, in her mind, flaunt, I cannot accept that. Okay, that's her decision. She's permitted that decision. The problem is her son won't permit her that decision. Her son won't say, I don't care if... No, her son does say, I don't care if you no longer have any kind of family gathering. See your kids. Because my wishes that I am here with my partner are more important than any of that. And that's really what he's saying. He's taking it very personally. He can't look at it and say, okay, she has a certain perspective based upon, I would guess, her moral view of things, and based upon whatever it is percolating emotionally in her regarding her feelings of frustration as a mother, feelings of how could you do this to your wife and kids, whatever it is. She's very adamant. And he's essentially saying, well, we exclude Mom because my partner's more important than Mom. That's what he's saying. Agree or disagree, that's what he's saying. I think the only chance you have here is perhaps appeal to the partner. Say, here's what's happening. Well, she's just wrong. Well, she thinks you're wrong. So this is your viewpoint, your perspective. She has hers. You don't agree with it. She doesn't agree with yours. Well, ours is right. Well, not as she sees it from the moral perspective she's coming from. Whether you agree with it or whether you don't, that's how she sees it. And what's happening here is that in these final years, we can't have a full family gathering. I would say to him, probably this isn't going to be indefinite. Mom is very elderly. And it may be that she soon will not be able to even come to the parties. Who knows? The siblings might get together and approach the son and say, we don't think it's right that Mom is not part of this. Well, she's making herself not be part of it. Whatever, that's the reality. She's not going to change that. So therefore, we are appealing to you. Let her come to these gatherings. She's not saying you can't come. She's not, quote-unquote, shunning her son. She's shunning that relationship that he has. I see this a lot, not just with homosexual lifestyles. I see it with divorce and remarriage. People come with their new, quote-unquote, spouse after divorcing their spouse, having been married in the church, so the marriage is presumed valid. And they want to come with their girlfriend or their boyfriend or their new spouse, and family's ill at ease. Family struggles with it because they feel that we could be condoning this. I think that's what Mom is thinking. I'm condoning this. If I go there like nothing has happened, this is okay, this is perfectly fine, then I'm turning my back on my morals. He divorced his wife and kids. That's big. I'm condoning it, and I can't condone it. I think that's driving her. I think it is. So the bottom line to all this, if he doesn't budge, if she doesn't budge, then the rest of Mom's years, you're going to have incomplete family gatherings. Maybe you'll have 2 or 3 of the offspring get together with Mom, and have a couple of the offspring and the same-sex attracted son not be there.
This is Life News Radio. I'm Jim Anderson. A Texas federal lawsuit against a New York State court official seeks state action against a doctor who allegedly both practices medicine in Texas without a license and ships abortion pills to Texas despite a state ban against that practice. New York shield laws deny long-standing recognition of other states' courts, all for the sake of thumbing the nose at pro-life law. Try yourself getting remote treatment for a hangnail if you call from a state where your doctor is not licensed to prescribe chemical abortions. New York doctor Margaret Carpenter does just that. The White House says the injunction against cutting Planned Parenthood Medicaid funds is not only absurd but illogical and incorrect. Planned Parenthood says such defunding is somehow a denial of free speech, likely because the monies are used to campaign against pro-life candidates. This is Life News Radio. In other headlines, economists are saying urgent action is needed to reverse decline in global birth rates and demographic winter. Shelby County, Texas, between Nacogdoches and Shreveport, is the latest county to ban abortion and close loopholes in state abortion law. Newly uncovered emails show Biden justice officials worked with education lobbyists. They deployed federal law enforcement against certain parents who spoke up at school board meetings. A Catholic studying to become a physician assistant is suing her school for $500,000. Alina Thoparathu reacted to required exposure to a live abortion and was subsequently kicked out of school. And mark your calendars for Saturday, September 13th. It's the annual National Day of Remembrance for Aborted Children. For pro-life headlines delivered to your email address daily, sign up at lifenews.com. This has been Life News Radio.
Thank you so much for joining me. This is Dr. Ray Guarendi. Program Doctor is in. This is Look Back Friday. Looking at the calls that we took from back when. Let's see what we're going to go to, Andrew. How about Andrea from Texas is saying that the early education that she received in her life made a big difference.
I had actually talked to you a couple of years ago about my son Tiberius, and
wait a minute, he conquered Jerusalem.
Yeah. Well, he's doing well. You said I was doing everything right, and I was. He's doing a little better. But I just wanted to comment because I hear a lot of the moms come on here and, you know, they're kind of sketchy of homeschool. And I would say I homeschooled my first when she was my only, and it was during COVID, the COVID lockdowns. I feel like I should have put her in like an early Head Start program because I can tell the difference between how much she's learned as opposed to my youngest 2-year-old, or my youngest in school. And
you're saying how much she's learned in homeschooling?
No. My youngest in school is an early Head Start. We have a program here in San Antonio called Avance, and they start them as early as literally 6 weeks. And they do sensory learning from like the time that they can't even walk yet, and they'll take them all the way through until they get them ready to prep them for kindergarten. And I can tell my 2-year-old is like literally miles ahead from where my oldest was at her age. And I can't stop talking about how great the Avance program is. I know there's like certain things you have to qualify with, but I can really tell the difference in her as opposed to my oldest. My oldest is still having trouble. She's 8, and we're still having problems with her as far as like her reading efficiency and like comprehension. And I just had her tested for ADHD. I had my oldest son tested for ADHD. He was confirmed. But he also, Tiberius, he's my oldest son. He also has hearing loss in his left ear. He's profoundly deaf in that ear. So he's had some cognitive delays because of that. But my oldest is typical hearing. We're kind of concerned with her because I know she has up until middle of 4th grade to get proficient at reading. But I feel like because she's changed schools so many times, we've changed her schools like 2 or 3 times, that she's had trouble focusing. She's had like
Andrea, let me throw a curveball at you, because you sound like you've concluded the reason for your 8-year-old's struggles that she didn't have that early stimulation. It may be, and I personally think it probably is, given what you've described, is that she's just a different kid. And your 2-year-old is more developmentally mature, and so she would be learning a lot of this stuff anyway because she absorbs it. Your 8-year-old, you think she didn't have that early stimulation, so therefore that was why she's struggling now. Given that you're testing her, and given that she's gone through a couple of 3 schools, maybe the better explanation is that's just who she is. She struggles a little more to learn. And that even if, the reason I'm saying this is because I'm hoping that you're not feeling, boy, really blew it. You know, we really blew it. We should have jumped in and given her that early stimulation, and she wouldn't be struggling like this now. Not necessarily. Not necessarily at all. You can have a child have all the stimulation in the world, but if she's going to struggle a little bit, you'll see it. And that may be what's going on. Okay? So, matter of fact, it probably is what's going on. But your 2-year-old just may be one that, she just absorbs it. She absorbs it earlier, and she's a little more developmentally mature. There you go. That's what I'm thinking. In research, there is something called anecdotal. Basically means that this is a limited example of a finding or a result that you think is at play. Now here for Andrea, she pointed to the fact that her son got some early stimulation that her daughter didn't get. And that's reverberating throughout the daughter's young childhood in her struggles to learn. The only way to actually confirm or disconfirm that is to have a whole boatload of kids who do get it and a whole boatload of kids who don't get it. And they are matched as much as possible, with the exception of one got the early stim, the other did not. Then you find out. I remember when I was working on a book, this is way back, this is probably 1990. I came across a study that talked about some of these early type stimulation programs. Now, this is, I got to be real careful here, because there's certainly nothing wrong with early stimulation. It's good, it's healthy, but the question becomes, how much is the impact? And what they found was that over a period of time, over several years, the impact washed out. And that was probably explained by the fact that a whole lot of other factors kick in. I remember one study talked about children who were eligible for being held back a month or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 months before going to kindergarten. And the other kids were sent on ahead. So here's the two groups you have. You got one who was held back, waited 5 months, 6 months, and then started kindergarten later, a year later. Got the other kids were sent on. And by 3rd or 4th grade, there was minimal differences. Now, individual learning, like Andrea is talking about her 2 kids, very, very dramatically affected by the kids' abilities. What is their learning prowess, if you will? And my guess would be that even if that daughter got that early stim, she still would be struggling because, for whatever the reason, in her particular approach, her particular wiring to learning things, it comes a little rougher. Sort of the way it is. Her son, who naturally seems to take to learning easily enough, he benefited from that early stim, and he rocketed on ahead. But he might have anyway, just because that's who he is. Joining me, Dr. Ray Grandy here. This is Look Back Friday. Okay, this is kind of unusual. This would be a look back. This particular call on previous Look Back show was, I miscalculated and I put it toward the end, the very end of the program. And I did not have much time to comment on anything. So I requested Andrew, let's put this back up on a future Look Back show. So I'll have a little more time. And I'm looking at the clock here, and I've got a soft break. And soft break means you can play with your time a little bit. So an anonymous dad calling from South Carolina, his son, and some questions regarding drugs. 19-year-old is using tetrahydrocannabinol, which is the main, most potent active ingredient of the many, many active ingredients in marijuana. Having struggled with that. Is he living with you?
Yes. So here's the situation. My son, he's 19 years old. He's in second year of college, but he's going to this college close to our home, so he's staying with us. He's the third one. He's getting a couple of A's here and there, but mostly B's and C's. I know he's not giving the best effort to school, but and I think he's playing too much video games. But the main problem I have with him is that he's been using this THC-infused thing. I'm not really sure what it is, but I know he smokes it. And I've been talking to him about this stuff for many, many years now. And a couple of weeks ago, I told him, hey, you need to stop that. That's bad for your brain. You need to stop it. But he claims that that's not bad, that it doesn't cause any harm because it's legal, blah, blah. So he's not convinced that this is bad. And I told him I didn't want him to using that stuff anymore. So now what he does is he's hiding to use it. And I know he's hiding. I know. But he doesn't know that I know.
Dad, you said you've been trying to get him to stop smoking dope for years?
Well, no, for about 6 months. But looking back, I think he's been using it for at least a couple of years.
Okay.
I just didn't know at the beginning.
All right. And you're also saying that he's kind of just drifting in school, that his grades are at risk. Is that the case?
Well, he's barely passing.
That's pretty risky.
He said he wants a degree, but he doesn't put the effort on it.
All right.
So I don't know if I just take him out and send him to the Marines.
Who's paying for school?
Or I am paying for it.
Why are you doing that? I'm not telling you not to. I'm just asking you why you are.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm doing it, and I'm questioning that myself. Maybe I should just tell him, hey, I'm not going to pay for this anymore. And
well, think about it. Think about it. Now, he's not putting any effort in. In South Carolina, is vaping with THC legal or not?
You know, I don't know, but I know he's buying it from this vape store near our home.
Okay.
He doesn't know that detail, but I know that's where he's getting it from.
All right. Well, you know, as a parent, you're very much allowed to say, here's my terms. If I'm going to pay for your college, here's my terms. No more of this, and I want to see your grades at least at C level, or that's it. That'll be your last semester I pay for. You're permitted to do that as a parent. What's stopping you?
Well, so I thought about it. The question is, if I do that, then I'm going to have him at home doing nothing.
Well, wait a minute now. Wait a minute. What do you mean he's going to be doing nothing? Are you not allowed to set conditions for his living at home, like get a job?
Yeah, I mean, but I don't know. So I was thinking maybe saying, hey, you have to live at home and get your own job and support yourself then.
Okay.
But
what if he doesn't do that? What if he basically says, okay, I'm not giving up the THC, and I'm not putting much more effort into school, and eventually I'm going to flunk. So you're going to lose your money, Dad, because some of these courses you've already paid for, and I'm going to not pass them, so I won't get credit. So then at that point, he says, I can't go to college without you paying, so I'm coming home. And then you say, okay, if you're going to come home, you're going to get a job, you're going to pay rent. And he says, yeah, I can't find a job. What are you going to do then?
Exactly. So that's where I'm stuck.
You're not stuck. Well, you're not stuck. You're basically in a point where you have to make some decisions. And the reason you're saying you're stuck is because you don't like probably what he'll bring upon himself, which is he can't live there. Now, that's up to you. I'm not telling you what to do, but that's up to you. I'm always wondering why so many parents are so afraid to say, okay, you're legally an adult. Here are the terms for my help. I want to help you. But if you're not going to cooperate, then this stuff stops. But I'm telling you, my friend, I would say less than 50% of parents can do that. Actually, far less than 50% of parents. And there's a lot of reasons for it. First of all, we got Dad saying, I've tried to reason with him and he won't budge. The most the son has done is not been so obvious about his use. That's the first thing. Secondly, Dad says this has been something that he thinks has been going on for quite some time. He must have been somewhat aware of it, but for whatever the reason, maybe he thought it was just going to go away with maturity. The problem with that is when you've got self-defeating, hurtful type behaviors, they generally don't just go away on their own. Yeah, there is some form of maturation that takes place, but it's not with hardcore self-destructive behaviors. Those generally don't resolve themselves with time alone. That's 2. If Dad were in therapy with me, I would have searched for what his fears and reluctancies are for putting conditions on this young man. Apparently, his using the THC is affecting his college. He's 19. I'm going to assume he's a freshman. Not unusual at all for an awful lot of kids to start college and just flunk out. That's becoming a bit of a trend. Or at least dragging, cramming 4 years of college into 7. So, what does Dad think if he continues to pay for this? Does he think that, in fact, his son will eventually realize, gosh, I'd better get myself straightened up and head for that degree because I'm really dragging this out and I'm using up Dad's money? Well, maybe Dad thinks that, but I think time will show that faulty. Also, it sounds like this young man is living irresponsibly in a whole bunch of areas. Yeah, he's smoking dope regularly, but in fact he's also simply not performing in school. I don't know if he works at all. Dad said, and this is an interesting thing, it shows a little bit of light into the situation. Dad said, if I pull the financial support from college, he's just going to come home and do nothing. Huh? Once again, Dad is saying, I can't control him. He's doing what he wants. Now, I don't know if there's a mom in the situation. I don't know if Mom is saying, look, we can't cut our support. We don't know what he'll do. We won't know where he'll go. We won't know what will happen. In cases like this, where there is this drifting irresponsibility, a lack of cooperation, typically the trajectory is that it moves into hostility. The parents get very frustrated. The kid gets more resistant or rebellious, and the whole home situation gets uglier. And this goes on, say, for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years, until usually the parents have had enough. There may be an episode of stealing their credit card, or money, or something that the parent believes, okay, you've stepped over the line now. It's one thing to be disrespectful and uncooperative, but now you're misusing us at a new level. So given that, many parents then throw the child out. Get out. Get out. I don't care where you go. I don't care what you do. You're 24. Of course, they second-guess themselves if he gets out and he flounders and falls apart and gets hooked up with some unsavory stuff. Then they second-guess themselves and say, we shouldn't have done that. But the question becomes, what will happen if they persevere in a situation like this? Typically, it gets more and more frustrating and unpleasant, and somebody gets so angry and hostile that the relationship breaks. And you don't want to have a relationship so deteriorated that when you finally act to say this can no longer be, the relationship's hanging by a thread, if that. So, the kids sometimes put you in these very difficult situations. But, legally, they are adults. And legally, if they're going to live in your home, then there is a certain level of cooperation and respect that you have every right to expect as a parent. And I got to tell you, as a shrink, it stuns me how often parents don't expect mature behavior. I better take a break. I'm way over. nice. Very nice, Andrew. A couple minutes left. I want to resort to reading so many things from C.S. Lewis here. I got a big stack. This is from Mere Christianity. He says this: no one knows how bad he can be until he's tried very hard to be good. I'll draw a parallel to parents coming in my office who finally set a limit. Perhaps they'll take the smartphone, or they will try to put a consistent consequence on a particular piece of behavior like disrespect or mistreatment of self. And what they'll find is, wow, I never saw him act like this. Yeah, because you're finally saying you can't do that anymore. Yeah, but we tried to say he couldn't do it anymore before. Yeah, but you've never really stood your ground. It's like C.S. Lewis also said in another place. He said, you don't realize how strong a temptation can be until you completely resist it. If you give up at any point along the way, you never got the full force of the temptation. Isn't that a frustration in being a Christian? Because as you become more familiar with our Lord's desires for us, what He wants of us, stuff you didn't know about before, you didn't even think about it, but you thought you were doing pretty good. And then as you come to understand what it would mean to be a disciple, you find that I didn't realize I fell short there. Didn't realize I do that. Oh, I didn't think that was so bad, but now I realize what happens is you're trying, by God's grace, to do better, and at the same time you're getting frustrated because there are so many things you want to do better about. In some respects, wasn't it nice to be ignorant? That's why so many people who have no religious sensibility whatsoever think they're a good person. Well, because they don't really think about what all would come into being a good person according to God's standards. It's only according to their own standards. No one knows how bad he is until he tries very hard to be good. C.S. Lewis, Mere Christianity. Thank you for joining me here on The Doctor Is In on this Look Back Friday, and all the work Andrew Kruchek does over there in taking care of these Look Back calls. Good Lord permitting, I will see you on Monday. Thank you for joining me. All walks end, except one. Your walk with God.
For information on Dr. Ray's presentations, books, and CDs, visit drray.com and follow him on Facebook and Instagram. The Doctor Is In is a co-production of Ave Maria Radio and EWTN Radio and carried across the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.